Hello, Mr. Boll. How are you doing today?
Good. I'm in the Black Forest right now, so I'm on the road for a few days, basically. Yeah, it's all good.
Well, first of all, I wanted to thank you for giving me your time to make this interview for my blog, The Cave of Pluton, because you are a filmmaker that I really like, and it's an honor to speak to you today.
Perfect. Yeah, I mean, we met in Madrid. I saw you in all the screenings, and it was
Yeah.
great to have so much um, audience there, and this discussions with the podium and doing the Q&A. That was a lot of fun to do for me. I think I was not at a film festival for at least 12, 13, 14 years, a long time. That was after a long time, the first film festival I went. So I had a very good time.
When, I mean, you probably do remember, we spoke a little bit after the projection of Rampage,
Yeah.
and I asked you about uh, your upcoming movie, Citizen Vigilante, when was coming out. And my first question has to do with that movie. I wanted to ask, what was the inspiration behind the story of the movie, either fictional or real? Because it is about a man who takes justice in his own hands and becomes a celebrity on social media. And to me, that probably there's some inspiration, some real life inspiration behind that.
Yeah, I see. I mean, we see now that people on social media getting in hyped up a lot. Like the guy who shot the United Healthcare CEO, the Mangione, the Italian guy. He's almost a hero for a lot of people that he did this. And I um, I make movies like Rampage. They are not let's say, pro vigilante justice, but they're also showing or putting the finger in the wound of where it's clear that we are living not in a world where the law totally works. So in Rampage, I wanted to show like the greed of like money is everything, and if people die but you are rich in the end, you're like, good, I'm a winner. Too bad for the others. And I think we have, based on social media, also kind of people are not like uh, they think the videos they see where people actually getting killed or jumping from a roof and whatever and having an accident and are dead. A lot of people, I think, they don't get it that this is real stuff, and they think because it's on Instagram or TikTok, it's fun and it's not like real. That lives end, and that with accidents or with murder or whatsoever. So, and I reflect in the movies. In Rampage was a long time ago. Reflect about this. In Assault on Wall Street, I reflect about this, or Heart of America, about school violence. So it's like it's a subject what basically haunts me, and since I'm alive, Run Amok, one of my third movie I did in Germany, was basically also about like an isolated killer who kills people, and I don't even explain why he's doing it. He's just doing it. And Citizen Vigilante, it was a situation I felt like that we have in Europe now a lot of discussions about uh, injustice in regards of migrants. So I think a lot of migrants coming from Islamic countries, and they're actually doing violent crimes, but they're not getting really hard punished for it. They don't go to jail. They don't get deported. They're getting away with rape. And I was so upset about this that I felt, okay, this I will bring into the Citizen Vigilante film, that but I make it a little more complicated. I mean, Armie Hammer plays a rich American who inherited the money and now lives in Europe to take care of real estate investments. So, but he has a military background, as Sanders is his character name, and he sees all this stuff, what happens in Europe, and he goes against drug dealers, he goes against bullies, he goes against rapists, he goes against them, and the law enforcement, Costas Mandalore plays the Interpol guy, they hate him because he basically is bringing things in order what the police is not doing in a way, right? And he's doing it more radical as police would do it. So, but the public starts loving that guy, you know. And I feel like we are in Europe in a very strange place. And the strange place is, I think we all live with a lot of migrants, and we don't have any problems with it. You know, so it's like I grew up with a lot of Turkish friends and so on, and I really have no problem with it. But I have a problem with it if they're coming, like especially in the last 8 years, and they're coming and they don't work and they deal drugs and they still get social welfare and they don't get prosecuted, and then they do these violent crimes. Like we have over 10 knife stabbings in Germany a day. We have over 10 rapes a day in Germany. And you can say 9 out of 10 are done by migrants. That are exactly the crimes the migrants are doing in public spaces. And so what I feel is when then the more left-wing people argue there's crime everywhere, right? Like I made a documentary about the Banditos Motorcycle Club. They're also in Spain, for example. It's #1 right now on Prime in Germany, you know, and I followed this motorcycle club. But the reality is they don't do anything to non-biking competitors. You know, when people say, whatever, the Banditos or Hells Angels are also very dangerous, blah, 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 organized crime. Yeah, but they don't rape 14-year-old girls and leave them in the bush in the park, you know, like, and they don't go to the railway station and stab you in the neck. They're killing people under themselves, like, you know, like in competitive businesses. So, and that's what I always in discussions also in Germany say, when I have political discussions, I said, look, there is crime. What is bad, and it needs to get prosecuted. Any murder has to get prosecuted, drug dealing, whatever. But there's also crime. What makes it now very risky to be at a railway station, and that was not there before the mass migration, right? This random crime, like in Germany, where this guy's driving with the car into the Christmas markets and all that stuff. That's random crime. What I cannot calculate. You know, where you feel like unsafe for your kids or unsafe to go on a Christmas market, to go in the inner city, to go at the railway station. And this is normally, that's not happening. You know, when people say in Germany, there's so many rapes in that TV discussion, there's so many rapes. Yeah. And most of the rapes are between married people or people that are together, you know, like where the boyfriend raped the girlfriend or where the husband rapes his own wife. Yes, that's very bad, but that's not a risk. I mean, I don't have a daughter, but that's not a risk if I would have a daughter who's 16 and goes in a swimming pool, right? That's not a risk for her. The risk for her is to have 150,000 18 years old asylum seekers from Somalia here or from Afghanistan who have no girls, but they want girls, and they're in public spaces. You know, like, I mean, that's a risk, you know, and that's the thing, what they are dishonest in that discussion. And I mean, I see with Citizen Vigilante, unfortunately, already a political, I'm very happy that it's coming out in the US and in Germany, but the other countries are not sold. And I think they're not sold because of the political content. It's a very hard action movie, and the political content is not what they want to see. You know, that's not what wins the Oscar, what wins the Berlin Festival, what goes to the Cannes Film Festival. They don't want that movies because they don't want that people say we would be better off without this mass migration from Islamic countries. that's the reality, and I was never scared to put the finger there where people say that's a no-go zone. You cannot do this. You get canceled if you do this. You cannot do this. I always gave a shit. Like I don't care. I mean, that's the thing. It's like, that's the worst thing for all that establishment, that they know they cannot censor me.
Yeah, yeah, it's no, I agree with everything that you said, because unfortunately here in Spain we have kind of a similar problem with that.
Yeah.
So yeah, what are you saying? I resonate a lot with that. And I'm talking about real life influences. Uh, there is a movie that you direct that I'm very interested in. That is Max Schmeling,
Yeah.
which was based on the famous German boxer. And I remembered that you said that you used to box
Yeah.
when you were younger. And I want to know, what was your experience in this sport? And what influence did it have when it came to make this movie?
I mean, my personal boxing thing was basically I got late in the puberty. So, like when 16 years old boys were all men in my school class, and I was still a boy. I really came late in the puberty. So I was weak, right? So I was small and weak. And my father gave me shit that I was small and weak. And I said, yeah, but I mean, I cannot, you're not growing up because you say, now I have to grow. Now I have to turn into a man. It happens when it happens. So in my case, it happened later. And I was so offended by what my father said that I went to boxing. I was like, okay, now I want to be strong. I want to go to boxing, whatever. And in Leverkusen, where I grew up, where I went to school, there was actually at that time the boxing club was the most like amateur champs, Olympic boxers. So there was a very good boxing club. So I went to the boxing club, and it really transformed me, not only because then I finally got into the puberty and I got older, but it also, besides being a good training, that you need discipline or it hurts, right? So when you don't train hard, you get pummeled in the ring. So you really like I played handball before too, and kept playing handball, but handball, you're in a team. It's not like life and death situation. It's like if you lose the game or not, but it's not like soccer. Boxing is a direct contact sport. So, but what I also learned there, or where I dived in over the years, I think for 14 years I boxed, was most of the people in the boxing club were not German. There were Yugoslavian, Albanian, Turkish, Italians, a few Spanish. There were like a lot of different countries, and the Germans were clearly a minority in the club. And there was also like the Albanian mafia guys and all this. So you have a live stream of what's really going on the street level. Like people were working as bouncers. There were people you could order whatever you want, they would bring it to you. You would say like, I at that point I collected LPs, like records, right? And I said, oh, there's a new Supertramp record or a new whatever. They're like, how much you want to give me? I said, if you get it, $10. So they went and stole it, right? So, and I paid $10 instead of $20. And at that point also had no money. So, and I learned a lot how they think, how they interact with each other, and also of course you learn boxing, and you got more in a way discipline, but also it made you feel safer,
Yeah.
right? So where you feel I don't need now to always pussy out, like if somebody wants to bully me or whatever in school, I got a little bullied. And then at one point they also recognized that I have a little more self-confidence, that you feel like I will not get like degraded anymore. I just will strike back. And in a way that transferred later in my movies, you know, where people strike back not in boxing, but they strike back with weapons, basically, right? So to say, look, I don't agree with getting like pummeled or pushed down. And on my film Run Amok, on the poster was written sometimes to run amok is the best way to go in contact with his people. So it was very cynical, but it was, you know, and of course people said I glorify violence. And I said, no, it depends how deep you get pushed down that you have to strike back. So in Max Schmeling, of course, when I shot the movie and I had Henry Maske playing Max Schmeling, who was a world box champion, and in the ring, when we shot the boxing scenes, they were all, well, like top boxers, right? There was no actors who had to learn boxing. All the fights, we said, okay, look, you hit each other for real, but only with like 50-60% power, you know. But all the fighting in Max Schmeling is real boxing. There was not a fight coordinator like you have actors like the Rocky movies, Creed movies, all of these boxing movies, The Fighter with Mark Wahlberg, they all had this stunt choreographer in the ring, and we didn't have that. You know, I had Arthur Abraham, half heavyweight world champion against Henry Maske, half heavyweight world champion, or the guy who played Joe Louis was Hector Hernandez, bronze medal winner from Cuba. So you just tell them, you tell them how the fight has to go, how the fight has to end, and they figure it out. And they don't start to cry when they're getting hit in the face, right? So I mean, they just went for it. And that was for me a great shoot. I loved shooting that movie based on the boxing, you know, to be this way around with this kind of high-end, top-notch athletes was unbelievable. And it was interesting, like Henry Maske hit me in the face one time. So he's like, I was at the ring and I was like yelling around, go deeper, whatever, hit him, right? And he like went to me and hit me in the face and said, look, only that you know, that's how it hurts, even if it's 50%. Right. So, and it hurts. Yeah. So these guys, of course, they hit hard, and the 50% I felt already. So, you know, but he hit me in a way that I didn't expect it. You know, he came to me, bam, and hit me, you know, and because he had to swallow a lot of hits in the film because he got knocked out by Joe Louis, and we showed other fights from him in the movie where he was older and had to take a lot of punches. So you know, and but I still loved the film, and Max Schmeling was the only one who ever defeated Joe Louis and was turned world champion, a German world champion in heavyweight. And I mean, Max Schmeling had also an unbelievable story that he stayed alive till he was 99 years old. That's unknown for a heavyweight boxer. You know, normally heavyweight boxers are dead when they're like at latest 80, at latest. And most of them die earlier. And he stayed alive till he was 99. That's also unknown.
Yeah, that's very interesting, because when it comes to boxing, I don't think that there is so much like how I say it, like a realism, because like you said, there is a choreographer in Hollywood movies, and I don't think there is not a lot of boxing movies that are that get that real when it comes
Exactly.
to fights.
That's the thing. I know from the boxer with Daniel Day-Lewis that he boxed there for real, right? So that he learned like an amateur to box, Daniel Day-Lewis, and there were some fights where they were boxing for real. I don't know what his opponents were, but Daniel Day-Lewis is maybe one of the best actors ever lived, and I believe it. And I liked The Boxer. It was a good movie, but you cannot compare it to the Max Schmeling movie, where you had only people in the ring, they were like world champions, and they were boxing. I mean, that's a little different. So I read only an article about the boxer with Daniel Day-Lewis where where this fight choreographer said, "Okay, I'm quit," because they were not listening to him. They were just boxing. They boxed it out, and I think that it felt like this. But the boxing in the boxer was not so spectacular. There was like, I think that was the thing with Rocky, for example. I love Rocky. I love Rocky 1. I love Rocky Balboa. They were great movies, but the boxing was always total bullshit. Because he stands there with the hands down, and then Drago hits him 15 times full on in the face, and you think, okay, why you don't lift your hands up to defend yourself? I mean, that's the thing where it was so over the top, the boxing, that it didn't make any sense.
Yeah. It's Rocky 4. It's not controversial without a reason, obviously.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Rocky Balboa was better because he boxed Anthony Tarver, who is a real boxer. And then Anthony Tarver, I think the boxing in Rocky Balboa was the most realistic one of all the Rocky movies. Yeah.
They're great. And, it was very interesting hearing you talk about your experience in boxing. And, and talking a little bit more about your life. Uh, I saw that you have a PhD in literature, and so I'm interested to hear what kind of literature do you like the most, and what do you think is the key to adapting a novel into a film?
I mean, I was very much in regards of reading books. I like Arthur Schnitzler. I like novels. I'm not the Tolstoy, like this 700 pages book fan. A lot of times, also from Thomas Mann novels, like the smaller 10 to 20 pages long novels, who like short stories, who describe, I think, a subject matter more interesting or better. So there were some writers like Thomas Bernhard. They were very influential on me because Thomas Bernhard was so nihilistic. So there was very, let's say, I liked them because they reflected my thinking at that time. So it was like a time where, like 4 or 5 years, where I read hundreds and hundreds of books and was very fascinated with reading. But my diploma and doctor work was about TV series. I analyzed TV series, and that was part of the university degree, was basically that I made an evaluation of what kind of TV series are existing, and what genres are the most successful, and what are the basically storylines of the typical Western series, the storylines of the typical science fiction series, and so on. So it was like not really about me writing then in the end about literature, but literature was very influential for me. And I think I never felt made out of a book a movie. I like more original stories. I think a lot of times the movie definitely is weaker as the book. And a lot of times where you have the feeling they had to omit so much from the book. And I mean, from Harry Potter to Lord of the Rings, everybody says the books are better never read the books, but everybody says the books are better as the movies. And I think a lot, you have that in most of the movies, Stephen King movies. Everybody said the book was so much better. So that's the thing. When you see Eyes Wide Shut, that's an Arthur Schnitzler novel. What the dream novel from Arthur Schnitzler, Kubrick tried to make that movie, and I read the dream novel. I know the novel, and I think it was totally different.
Yeah.
as the movie, like really, really different. And so I like more to make original stories and as to make out of a book a movie.
Yeah. Well, well, there is a book specifically that that is Blood Meridian of Cormac McCarthy, the writer of The Road and No Country for All Men. And this book has been tried, a lot of directors have tried to adapt this book. And if I'm being honest, I would love to see, I would love to see your take in that book.
Yeah, it's a good idea, but I don't think somebody will give me the money to make that that film. Yeah. So, but No Country for Old Men was a good movie.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So there was a good movie, and I'm sure there were movies that were very close to the original stories, whatever it was. There are a lot of Bible kind of movies, whatever Ben Hur, whatever. A lot of these gladiator movies, they're based on books too. But I think it's better to try to have a smaller sinner book to make a movie out of it as to have War and Peace. I mean, Krieg and Frieden, like the Napoleon story and all this stuff, is very tough to bring it in a 2.5 hours movie. And then a lot of movies, they feel rushed. They feel like that would be better if it would be an 8-part series where every episode is 2 hours long.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's something funny. Also, funnily enough, that's something that happened to me with Napoleon, the movie of Ridley Scott,
Yeah.
because not only did, like you said, did it put a lot of stuff in the movie, but also, I mean, I honestly I didn't like the movie because mostly because what the movie shows is not Napoleon. What it shows is the stereotype that
Yes.
that people, well, mostly British people have of Napoleon, a short, little, angry guy, basically.
I hated the movie too. I felt like the movie was the worst Napoleon movie I ever watched. Actually, there were older ones from the 60s and 70s. I think with Rod Steiger, there were better movies. And I think it was horrible. I think also Joachim Phoenix was not good. And it showed only the most unimportant bullshit Napoleon did.
Hmm,
Like
basically.
this kind of that he was also in a way a great leader for France at a point that is completely off. That's not like really shown in the movie at all. When you watch the movie, you really see why he could take power, but then you see him only being basically a little loser who flips out because of his wife, who
Yeah,
plays him in a way, right? So, and I felt like that cannot be all that cannot be the real story here of Napoleon. So, no, I really felt the movie is a waste of time and money.
yeah, definitely. I mean, I think Ridley Scott is a good director, but nowadays, mm, like,
No, I mean that's the thing. The question is when you're 80 or he's over 80 and Scorsese too. So the question is, can you keep your edge in a way? Right? I think Scorsese and Ridley Scott, you see now that they're getting the superstars, they're getting a lot of budget, they can make big movies, but the
yeah,
movies are kind of empty. They're not
yeah,
anymore. They have nothing to say anymore. They have a huge career behind them, but they're not like anymore in a way the times of Taxi Driver or Aliens and so are over, you know.
yeah, it's true. And okay, uh, sorry. Uh,
Yeah, yeah, don't worry.
uh, uh, sorry, is that I got the questions here and
Yeah.
okay.
Good.
Well, another thing that I wanted to talk about is that you opened this is something that I was surprised when I see it. You opened a restaurant called Bauhaus, if I pronounce it correctly,
Yeah.
in Vancouver, Canada, and the restaurant received very good reviews. So I wanted to ask you if you still have plans to make an expansion. Um, what do you think makes a German cuisine so special?
I mean, I missed German cuisine living in Vancouver. That was the one point, and I think that most of the people think German cuisine is sausages and Wiener Schnitzel, and and it's part of German cuisine. But it would be to say Spanish cuisine are just tapas. I mean, it's just not wrong. I think that German cuisine can be very defined, can be very high end, very good executed from a top chef. So I had a Michelin star chef coming over from Berlin, and I wanted to show Canada that yeah, German cuisine is not only sausages, that you get other dishes, especially very good developed dishes with enormous sauce, like the sauce level and so on. Braised beef in like sauce, what is 4 or 5 days old, and stuff like this. And I liked the time to have the restaurant, but it was too much work for me. I thought that I can set it all up and then lean back and just have a good time, but that was not the case. So you had to be hands-on in the restaurant to manage the whole time the restaurant. And when COVID came and we had to close, then I did never open back up because I felt like, no, then let's wrap it up. And I moved back to Germany. There was this a double decision at that point. For me, it was clear I cannot have the restaurant when I'm physically not there anymore, because then things will fall completely apart. And I also didn't want to live in Canada anymore. I wanted to go back to Europe.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I would love to eat in your restaurant if I'm being honest. I think it will be very good.
Yeah, and I mean that's the thing. People were like in the beginning very skeptical, and then they felt like, no, that's actually very good food. That's a little different as what we're getting here in Canada, and so we growed an audience. The reviews were good. The people came, but you know what the problem in restaurants is? Your team. The waiters, they quit, they leave. The bartenders drink, they give friends drinks for free. Like stuff like this. So when you're not there as the owner, there is a lot of stealing. Where they just like they give food for free and so on and so on. And I mean that is very tough in the restaurant business.
And another thing that I wanted to talk about about your own life is that you said that you wanted to enter in cinema after watching Mutiny on the Bounty, the Marlon Brando version. And
Yeah.
I want to know, there was any other profession that you have been interested in pursuing besides cinema, of course?
No, not really. It was really like when I was 10, I watched that film, and then I really wanted to make movies. It was I mean, I was like thinking, okay, if this doesn't work out, what I want to be, a journalist or a teacher. I mean, you have to have plan B, right? So you have to know, like, okay, I need to make money. So if I cannot make it as a filmmaker, what else can I do? And that was 100% in my brain. It's not like my parents had a lot of money and could like just give me money. That was not the case. So it's also what I tell every younger filmmaker now. You always need plan B, right? So what is if you cannot, as a freelance director or freelance producer, survive, you need to find an income, so or so.
Yeah, well, I think you could have been a great boxer if I'm being honest.
Yeah, but for this, I think I started too late. You know, like when you're like 16, you start kind of late. There were like people they box since they're 8 years old. They have, of course, this advantage that they started way earlier. That's the thing. And I don't know. I'm happy because I mean I did fights. I did a lot of hundreds of sparrings, and but boxing is a very hard sport, and it can be very bad for your health too. You know, if you get hit in the face too much, 3, 4 times a week in sparring, that's not necessarily healthy for you. So better that I'm a filmmaker now.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the the next question that I wanted to ask you is one that I'm very interested in, actually, because as a film student, this really surprised me. You made two movies, which were two, if I pronounce it right, Tunnel Rats and Stoic.
Yeah.
And what surprised me is that in both movies, more in Tunnel Rats than Stoic, the actors have had a total freedom to improvise their dialogue.
Yeah.
So I, I want to know, was it more complicated to direct them under those circumstances, or was it easier than when they had a pre-established dialogue?
No, I think it really depends on the movie. I
Hmm,
don't think you can shoot House of the Dead or Alone in the Dark without a script, and the people have to learn the lines and stuff. But
hmm,
if you do movies, I think they're very emotional or even based on reality, like Stoic or Tannerats in a way too. I felt if you get better actors, if you let them basically develop the characters and what the character is, where the character comes from, why the character is doing this, if they develop it on their own, so they're standing by the character they're playing more. And I on Tannerats, all these young actors who played the young GIs playing in Vietnam, or the Vietnamese actors too, I said, look, you need to develop your own character, why you are here. Did you got drafted, or you basically said, I want to fight in Vietnam? Like what brought you here? And I think that played out very good, but they need more time then, right? So it's this kind of it's not like you cannot hire somebody and you start shooting the next day. I think you need then prep, right? That they know this in advance for 6 weeks or something, what I want from them. So they have time to work on it. And I mean, in Tannerets, we had these guys going early to Africa in a boot camp to get that military training. And so during the military training, they really got into it, and got better with the character. And on Stoic, there were only the 4 actors, but I let them sleep in the jail together, to say, look, you're not going to the hotel. You have to stay here in your bunk beds, and then they getting it, how bad it is to be with 4 people in a little jail cell, and that little stuff can escalate up to total violence, like so. And I think that helped them to be so intense in Stoic. The intensity of all the actors in Stoic is really, I think, a result also out of this improv, that they had to really live the life of a prisoner.
yeah. And speaking about working with actors, uh, this question is going to be a little bit controversial.
Mm.
Uh, but in your opinion, who is the kindest actor, actress, and the most difficult actor, actress that you have ever worked with?
I mean, you have actors, they they are prepping themselves, they come and deliver. And let's say Ben Kingsley as a vampire in Blood Rain. Kingsley is, of course, a very strong actor, very good actor. He can pull it off. Ray Liotta, very strong actor. They can pull things off. But they maybe played in my movies not parts they really wanted to play. They were doing parts they just did for the money, right? So, and then you feel this kind of, it's kind of a two-faced situation. They want to act in front of me like they take it totally serious and they want to give a good job. But at the same time, you have the feeling, they're doing this for the money. And that's the reason for the video game-based movies. I would not pick actors out and would say they did a horrible, horrible job. I mean, we talked about Tara Reid in Alone in the Dark. You know, it's like Tara Reid really tried to do a good job in Alone in the Dark, but she was just the wrong actress to play this part. And I think that's a thing where I failed that I hired her. You know, like as a director, I think you should only hire people that you have the 100% confidence that they can do this part. And I didn't. There was a time where you hired people, you never really talked to them because of the name got dropped. And you say, look, you want Tara Reid, American Pie, big hit, blah, blah, blah. And you think, yeah, why not? Maybe then we get more revenues for the movie, but it was a mistake. And I think the casting is really like always the most important thing. If you cast a movie right, you're already on the winner list. You know, it was very hard to work with Michael Madsen on Blood Rain because of he was drunk, because he was not remembering the lines. You know, but Eric Roberts is the same on Assault on Wall Street, on Sanctimony. He has just a mental thing. He cannot remember lines. So you basically need to put a sign up that he can read the lines, but that's very bad for the other actors. You know, you could never have Eric Roberts, Michael Madsen in Stoic or Tunnel Rat or this kind of movies. It would never work because they would fuck it completely up. You know, it would like, what the fuck are you doing? You know, it's really like, so, you know, they have acting abilities, but not in that specific method acting, improvisation talent. And like, for example, also here in First Shift, Daniel Soli is very good. He played the Italian cop in Run, in my movie about the migration. He was very good, you know, and he really like moved from Italian language to English back and forth and was like just an amazing, I think in Run, he is the best actor. He's not the most known actor in Run. There's James Russo, Ulrich Thompson, whatever, but I think he really steals the movie. And I saw that when I had him in First Shift, where he played that mafia guy who shoots a guy. I saw that he's an actor. He has that presence. And yeah, I mean, you know, I worked with so many actors that to pick one I loved the most to work with is very tough. You know, you have actors like Will Sanderson, Clint Howard, Michael Paré. I did so many movies with because I like them. You know, they're good actors and I like working with them. I have a good time working with them. I have a very good time working with Gino Pesi and Kristen Renton on that First Shift cop stuff from New York. I don't think it's out in Spain, or but it's like we did First Shift 2 and 3 already. So we did 3 parts because I love working with them. They are very good actors, and I like cop movies, you know. But there were also actors where you never had a connection to, in a way, where they deliver, you're happy with what they do, but you're not going out with them and have dinner. You're not having the best time of your life with them. You know, it's like, it's this thing too. But if you do Citizen Vigilante, I mean, I was with Armie Hammer basically nonstop together. We were in Croatia. We were in the same hotel. He was every day on set. I was every day on set. And then you talk the whole time in between, you know, you chat about everything and then you go for dinner. So that's, That was a very intense time with him because he was the only one there carrying the whole movie.
Yeah, that's very good. I mean, I can already tell that Armie Hammer was, I guess, he was very professional on set.
Yes. He's very professional, but he's also super prepared. He had no problems with
Mm.
the lines. He remembers everything, and he has that presence too. I think he's a real star. I think it's too bad that he got in a way canceled, and I think he should come back. I mean, there are not a lot of leading hero guys, man, who can do stuff like this. You know, who can really carry a movie that people say, I want to watch that movie because Armie Hammer is in. That's
Yeah,
not a lot of times where people now say, I want to watch that movie because Glenn Powell is in, right? I think Glenn Powell gets all the big parts in all the big movies, but he's not really bringing it. He's not a Mel Gibson was, what a Bruce Willis was, what where he was Stallone. There are real stars. They were carrying movies and did film history like De Niro, Pacino. There were times where people just, oh, it's a De Niro movie, I have to watch it.
yeah,
So they fucked it up too when they got older. They are not, I mean, De Niro, Pacino, Bruce Willis, they all did in the end also shit movies, so
yeah,
in a way. But let's say 40 years ago, 30, 40 years ago, it was a must to see the new De Niro movie because it will be good.
yeah. And it's funny because what you said about Glenn Powell, that he doesn't like bring it. That's something that I think happens with another actor that is Channing Tatum.
Oh, yeah, true.
I mean, honestly, I don't really like how he acts. I think he doesn't have a lot of range, in my opinion, of course. But he, like, he's an example of he works with Jonah Hill, for example. But I think that Jonah
Yeah,
Hill is a much better actor. They make two comedies together,
yeah.
but like, and I already said this to some of my classmates that thank God that it was a comedy and not a drama because Jonah Hill, I think, eats him alive.
Yeah. No, Jonah Hill is a great actor. Wolf of Wall Street, right? So he can do it all. But he played because of Superbad and everything. All this fatties basically, right? That made jokes about like Chris Farley had in the earlier years, and people that were like John Belushi and so on. But I agree, Tatum. I think also the Hemsworth brothers, or Bautista, these actors, they're okay, but they're
Yeah,
not like carrying a movie from alone. That's the worst also with the Superman actors also and stuff like this. They're not like must-see actors. They're not really on that level. I think Brad Pitt is a very good actor.
yeah,
I think he showed all the range in all the genres, and he played bad guys, psycho killers. He played heroes. I think Brad Pitt is an excellent actor, and I think Tom Cruise is an excellent actor. He made only in a way, the mistake that he did then only that big movies for a while. But I think as soon he plays also other characters, Tropic Thunder, or was he in Magnolia, whatever. I see a Rain Man. He can do character parts too.
yeah,
I think Tom Cruise is a real superstar. DiCaprio is a great actor. So and Sean Penn is a great actor. So but I agree with Tatum, whatever. This kind of to be honest, also for example, Ryan Gosling, right? I think Ryan Gosling did very good movies, but I was never the big Ryan Gosling fan. You
yeah,
know, I think he's a very good actor, but he's that one level under Brad Pitt and
yeah,
so on.
yeah. I mean, like Ryan Gosling and Channing Tatum are like how and Glenn Powell are like how do I say it? Like like a pretty voice to
Yeah.
say it.
Yeah.
Like
And Ryan Gosling can play this kind of silent guy, like in Drive or whatever. This kind of, he did some good movies, right? But
yeah,
I think he played
absolutely.
also in that new Blade Runner. What I didn't like, I mean, how can you play in the Barbie movie? You know, like I mean, like there he should state like, what the fuck I'm doing here. That he thought Barbie is a good movie shows to me that he has no idea from great movies in a way. You know,
Yeah,
yeah,
that it's
yeah.
true. And now something that I wanted to talk about. You have mentioned earlier, like the video game movies, and obviously you have become famous for for making those video game movies. And you previously stated that you were interested in making an adaptation of Metal Gear Solid and World of Warcraft. And I wanted to ask you, what drew you to these games and made you consider filming an adaptation? And I want to know if there are any current or recent video games that have caught your attention to the point of considering filming them.
I mean, World of Warcraft at that time or Grand Theft Auto were just like uh, um, no, Metal Gear Solid. You said they were the biggest game at that time, and you felt if it's a good business to make movies out of the biggest games. Now I would say Grand Theft Auto would be the way to go because you could do Grand Theft Auto in a way like Postal. You can do it
Yeah,
as a very political incorrect, very violent, crazy movie, and uh, but it looks like that they will not allow making a movie for now. So you know, and I think also the risk for a great game is that a movie destroys the game. If the movie sucks, then maybe people think don't play that game also anymore because they watched the movie and felt like uh, you know, for example, Fortnite makes so much money that
yeah,
why they should allow a movie. It's just like pennies on the dollar for them. You know, it's like if they make with a movie $100 million or $200 million, who gives a shit? They're making like hundreds of millions every month with Fortnite. So, you know, it's that for them, it would be too big of a risk to make a movie to allow people making a movie named Fortnite.
yeah. I mean, and it's funny because there was the World of Warcraft movie was made in 2016, which it's interesting that the son of David Bowie is the one who directed that movie. But I mean, it's Duncan Jones. I think he's a good director, but I didn't like the movie. I think it
Mm.
was I mean, being respectful, of course, but I think it was like a Lord of the Rings wannabe.
Yes,
It-
I agree. No, I didn't like Assassin's Creed. I didn't like Prince of Persia. I didn't like World of Warcraft. They were all not really good movies. I mean, they were like when you see then like Super Mario Brothers or you know they're better in a way. The video games
yeah,
more for kids turned into the better movies. You know, Sonic the Hedgehog, whatever. Like they were all better in a way, or Minecraft. You know, there were better movies also as this more for adults. And you know, Hitman. I don't know. Hitman was okay, but it was not great.
yeah,
You know, so I think Silent Hill 1 was good. I think Silent Hill 2 and 3 were not good at all. So you know, so I that's the thing. I mean, but we will see. I mean, now a lot of video game based movies and TV series are in there, like The Last of Us, Fallout, and so on. And normally the TV series now are kind of better. So, but we will see. The Resident Evil TV series is coming up. They do a Far Cry TV series. So we will see how they are. You know,
yeah.
they are both on Netflix. That's normally a bad sign. And then we,
Yeah,
and then we will see how this stuff looks like. We will see.
yeah. I mean, I think that a big problem when it comes to video game movies is that my theory is that a lot of times like they don't. I mean, they think, okay, this is a video game, which means if it's a video game, it has to be all action, CGI, and the story
Yeah.
is we shouldn't give a lot of thoughts to the story,
Yeah.
and I think that's absurd because there are a lot of games like Red Dead Redemption or God of War which have an amazing story. Like this could make
Yes.
a great movie, but the problem is that nowadays I don't think they will adapt it very well.
Yeah, and I mean, but in a TV series, you have a little. They give it a little more time to develop the characters. What is better, right? And when you see Netflix, for example, everything has to start right away with action, and that's sometimes also not good. Sometimes it's just like they need this hello wake up call when they're starting any show. And but a lot of times that's maybe the wrong idea to start a movie or to start a TV series. You need to think about Breaking Bad or how slow that started. I mean, like the best things a lot of times are not having a big action sequence in the first 5 minutes. So, and the audience also need to learn again to pay attention and to give things time.
Yeah, absolutely. And when it comes to video game movies, you made a Postal, which
Yeah.
I wanted to tell you. I think the movie was really good. I mean, I really like it. And what surprised me is that it is the only movie based on a video game that in which you collaborate on writing the script. And according to many people, and you're one of them, it was the best video game movie that you made. What do you think that is?
No, I think on Postal, I felt I need to write it myself, mostly because I wanted to go back to my very first movie, like German Friend movie, what is a ridiculous comedy also. And I felt like that game has to be this film after making all the other movies before. Uh, it needs to reflect myself as a filmmaker again. I felt Alone in the Dark, Far Cry, Dungeon Siege, House of the Dead, Blood Rain. They were all not really my movies in a way how I normally make movies, like Tunnel Rats, Darfur, Soul of Wall Street. These are all my movies. I wrote them. I had the idea, like Rampage, Stoic, and that personality, what I put into my movies normally, was for me not really visible in Alone in the Dark, for example. And I wanted that it's visible in Postal. So that's the reason I've wrote it the way. And then the Postal game people, they were not so happy in the beginning, but then I convinced them that that's the way to go. They were thinking a little more like a falling down kind of movie with a little more just violence and not so much humor, not so much satire. And I think the movie changed them also. Then the Postal movies, the Postal games in the future got also more satirical, funny. I think based on the experience they had with the movie.
Yeah, and and I have to say when I watched the movie for the first time, like well, obviously I almost died of laughter, and there was a particular joke that I really that almost killed me. That was when George Bush was talking with Bin Laden on the phone, and Bin Laden says, "I wish I knew how to quit you."
Yeah.
Like, and that was
Perfect. Yeah.
yeah. And if I'm correct, that was a reference to Brokeback Mountain, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was amazing. I loved it.
Not a lot of people know this, actually. I was surprised that only like people who watch movies, they really know it. Okay, it's Brokeback Mountain, right? So, but a lot of people they don't know it. They just think he tells it to to Bush. No, but I mean, there were like a lot of satire elements and a lot of this. You cannot like this. Cannot you cannot do this, and then we did it. You know,
Yeah.
the guy in the wheelchair and he climbs over him, like all, and then he gets abused by the police guy. He's using the wheelchair guy to make money. So all this thing, a lot of things in Postal are also kind of the same subjects like Rampage.
Mm.
But in Rampage, it's very cynical, dark, and hard. In Postal, it comes across as a comedy, but it shows also it's all about the money, right? The whole cult from Dave Foley, Uncle Dave, you know, it's all bullshit, and he knows it. And people who have no money, like himself, the Postal dude, he looks down when they're up on the windmill and looking down to these idiots who have too much money and whatever, and they spend it all to be in a cult, you know, like total idiots. And yeah, there is a lot of course, also political views and my views about religion and all this stuff. And so that's the reason I say on Postal, at the best time of my life shooting that film, because I felt like uh, nobody would do this and nobody did that before. And you know, it was really, it's one of the only movies who are closer to the old Monty Python movies, like
Well,
Life of Brian, meaning of life. You know, when Monty Python also did similar things where they really shit on everything, and that was really almost the only movie made in that totally political incorrect style. I have time for one more question because then we have to go
eh,
downstairs here for
okay,
dinner. Yeah.
sorry. Well, the okay. Well, my last question is, in your opinion, what are the differences between filming in Germany and in other countries, especially the United States? And in which country do you felt more comfortable?
More in America as in Germany. In Germany, I recognized that when I shot Max Schmeling, after a long time, I shot a lot in German language and shot Max Schmeling. Is in Germany, I think almost everybody on set thinks always they are the director. And in North America, you don't have that. You also don't, I don't know how it is in Spain, but also in Eastern Europe, you don't have that. In Eastern Europe, if you're the assistant director or you're the dit guy or you're the camera guy, you identify with your job and you're not trying to put your vision on screen. You do your job to put the director's vision, to make the director's vision happen. And that's in it's clearer, like this hierarchy in North America is clearer, I think. And they're not like interfering with directing. And in Germany, I always had the feeling like people are like, they some people give the actors advices or tips or telling them, you know, like in the makeup artist or the wardrobe person, and you think, what the fuck are you doing? And you know, and that is what I like more in the American way. It's a clearer hierarchy, and it's just like everybody is doing their job. So you know, and in Eastern Europe, Croatia, Romania, Bulgaria, where I shot, or also in South Africa, it's very unproblematic. And but I have to say, in South Africa with Tannerets, with Darfur, there was amazing shooting because the Africans, they're very enthusiastic. You know, they're very let's say, not in it for the money. They're really in it to make a great product, and they're very enjoying their life making a movie. And sometimes, especially in Germany, you have the feeling they're like, would do also any other job where they would get more money. You
Yeah.
know, like being an insurance broker or working in a bank. If they get $50,000 more per year, they dump the movies and go to being an insurance broker. And that's a bad feeling overall. when you make movies. You know, you want a crew what is very enthusiastic, supportive. Yeah.
Well, you said that if in Spain something similar happens, and actually it does. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
that's why some directors they prefer to work in the United States because they say they like have more freedom to, in some cases, of course, they have more freedom
Yeah.
to do their own thing.
I can imagine that too. It's a different mentality, you know, and it's this kind of you feel I felt in Germany from the crew a lot because I produced TV stuff when I worked when I did my 3 German movies, and then I worked for a production company. So I produced stuff. I didn't direct that stuff, but when producing stuff for 4 or 5 years, more TV stuff, it was in the beginning of my career. It was very like you see this day in the crew a lot resentment. You feel like they're negative here on set. They're not like happy to be on set, you know. And I had that when I had a few things what I produced for TV. It was this kind of like you had the feeling like really, as I said, these guys are just in it to make money. And I think that's the wrong business. If you're making movies in any form or shape, just because you want to be rich or you want to make money, you're totally off. Like you didn't get the message, basically. You know. Yeah.
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 Uh, well, Mr. Wall, that was my last question. And again, thank you so much for giving me your time. And it was an honor to speak with you again because
Yeah. No,
I
absolutely. Contact me anytime, right? With any more questions, we can do that also maybe in a year again if you want. And whatever you write, whatever you post, send it to me. I can post it around too, right? So yeah, good.
okay, I will. And the last thing I want to tell you, I really like. I think your house is very pretty. I have to say.
Yeah, thank you, thank you. Okay, talk to you
Well,
later. But you have to.